Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to be tracing a pretty fascinating web of global events today. We're looking at how massive geopolitical and environmental shifts aren't just, abstract headlines flashing on a screen. They actually create this incredible, direct ripple effect right down to our everyday human experience. From super high-stakes international diplomacy to hyperlocal weather emergencies and sudden economic shifts, everything is just deeply interconnected. So my goal today is to guide you through these complex dynamics, break down exactly what is happening around the world right now on May 25th, 2026, and really unpack why it actually matters to you.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Geopolitics and fragile peace. 2. Extreme weather disrupts daily life. 3. Rising tensions and health threats. 4. Tech layoffs and economic ripples. And finally, 5. Honor and remembrance.
All right, let's get into part 1, geopolitics and fragile peace, negotiating global fault lines. So we are jumping right into a highly volatile international landscape with a US-Iran conflict. And what's really striking here is the sheer contrast between the high-level optimism we're seeing and the actual friction on the ground. On one hand, momentum really seems to be building. Donald Trump has declared that a comprehensive peace framework is largely negotiated. And this framework, which was brokered with some serious help from Pakistan and Gulf allies, outlines a 60-day ceasefire extension and plans to reopen the economically vital Strait of Hormuz. But then you look at the other side of the coin. Marco Rubio is out here cautioning that critical details, specifically regarding sanctions relief and the verified transfer of enriched uranium, remain a massive sticking point. He's warning that the U.S. is completely prepared to find another way if talks stall out. It is absolutely a delicate balancing act of diplomacy. And this brilliantly illustrates that real-world ripple effect we were just talking about. Geopolitics isn't just about politicians signing pieces of paper. It's about real people deployed in the field. Right now, as we speak, hundreds of British sailors are literally sitting on standby aboard the RFA Lime Bay off the coast of Gibraltar. They've been tasked with a highly specialized mine-clearing mission to secure the Strait of Hormuz, which is obviously a crucial global trade route. But their entire command is essentially paused, just waiting for that US-Iran peace pact to be officially finalized. Talk about a waiting game, right?
And this kind of instability is building across other global fault lines too. Over in Eastern Europe, exiled Belarusian opposition leader Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya just made a surprise diplomatic visit to Kyiv. And this is happening right as French President Emmanuel Macron is issuing a very direct warning to Alexander Lukashenko about the severe regional risks of dragging Belarus any further into Russia's war. Keep in mind, this is a war that just saw Kyiv cleaning up from Russia's largest single missile barrage of the entire year. Meanwhile, if we shift our gaze down to West Africa, the security dynamics there are actively fracturing. Jihadist forces from JNIM successfully seized a strategic military base outside Tessalit in Mali, and they stepped in immediately after Malian state troops and Russia's local Africa Corps abruptly retreated. So the cascade of global instability is really just constant right now.
Okay, moving on to Section 2. Extreme weather disrupts daily life when infrastructure meets nature. We're going to shift our focus now to the friction between climate extremes and our human infrastructure. Take a second and look at this number, 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. That is exactly how much temperatures have surged above the seasonal average in Western Europe right now. Meteorological agencies are tracking this totally unprecedented early heat dome that has just trapped high pressure over the continent. To put that into perspective for you, local temperatures in parts of France and the Iberian Peninsula are absolutely shattering historical May records. They're soaring past 30 degrees and approaching a searing 38 degrees Celsius. This isn't just a, slightly warm spring day. It's a shocking metric of our shifting climate realities. Now, on the completely opposite side of the weather spectrum, we're seeing some hyper-local chaos over in North America. Look at the cascading impacts of this flash deluge in New York City. A severe storm just dumped nearly 2 inches of rain across parts of Brooklyn and Queens in under 20 minutes. 20 minutes. The direct result, New York's aging sewer network was completely overwhelmed. This triggered fast-moving flash floods that blocked major expressways, severely disrupted the subway lines, and left over 10,000 residents sitting in the dark without power. When aging infrastructure meets extreme nature, the disruption to daily life is just immediate and it's severe. Which brings us to Section 3, rising tensions and health threats, the spread of crises. Crises, whether they're biological or societal, they rarely respect national borders. And the crucial point here is seeing the direct, procedural chain reaction that global health officials have to execute when a threat emerges. As Ebola deaths unfortunately continue to rise in Central Africa, we're seeing the ripple effect hit global transit. Step 1, a commercial airliner was just diverted to Canada due to screening failures. That immediate risk automatically triggers Step 2, the World Health Organization stepping in and expanding its cross-border safety protocols. And that directly leads to Step 3. International transit hubs worldwide are now implementing incredibly strict documentation checks for any passengers arriving from high-risk zones. It is a necessary, rigid protocol entirely designed to contain the spread.
And alongside those health threats, we are also tracking some significant domestic friction and unrest globally. Down in Bolivia, tens of thousands of demonstrators allied with former President Evo Morales are staging these major marches. They're blocking key corridors and causing massive commercial gridlock in the capital. Over in Europe, Serbian streets are currently filled with widespread anti-corruption rallies, putting heavy pressure on President Alexander Vučić following some recent administrative scandals. And in Spain, a major law enforcement investigation is underway after a really tragic mass shooting inside a home in El Ejido left 2 dead and 4 seriously injured. Each one of these events creates profound societal ripples right within their respective nations.
All right, let's pivot to the economy in Section 4. Tech layoffs and economic ripples, corporate shifts. 8,000. Just let that number sink in for a second. We're pivoting to the economic sphere to explore how major corporate decisions trickle all the way down to everyday people. That number right there represents Meta's sudden and, frankly, massive workforce reduction.
And the crazy thing is, the impact of those 8,000 lost jobs doesn't just stay confined to Silicon Valley. Industry analysts are already noting an immediate cooling effect rippling outward. When a tech giant restructures this drastically, it instantly hits tech-adjacent housing markets and corporate service sectors, particularly across the major tech hubs in North America. Think about it. A single corporate spreadsheet adjustment suddenly means fewer homes being bought, fewer local services being contracted, and a massive chilling effect on local economies.
Okay, amidst all of this heavy economic and geopolitical news, the global stage does occasionally offer a lighter, somewhat more curious moment. During a widely circulated interview on the West Block, former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was asked about this fringe commentary going around suggesting that Canada should become the 51st American state. His response was a pretty dry dismissal. He noted he's happy at 50 for the United States because, in his words, the flag is already sufficiently crowded. Just a brief moment of diplomatic humor in what is otherwise a very intense news cycle.
Finally, Section 5, Honor and Remembrance, Grounding the Global Cycle. After navigating such a high-octane global news cycle, it is really vital to just slow our pacing down for a minute and transition to a much more peaceful, reflective cadence. Today is Memorial Day in the United States, and Arlington National Cemetery is hosting its 5th annual Flowers of Remembrance Day. Hundreds of veterans, school groups, and everyday civilians are taking time out of their busy lives to line up at the plaza. They're walking across the quiet grounds to personally place pink and white carnations right at the base of the tomb of the unknown soldier. It is this vivid, incredibly grounding picture of humanity pausing to honor the fallen, and it stands in such stark contrast to all the chaotic headlines we've explored today.
Which brings us to our final thought. We have traced a huge global ripple effect today, from tense nuclear negotiations and climate-driven floods to economic shifts and viral health protocols. It's a relentless daily cycle of friction, for sure. But looking at those peaceful carnations in Arlington leaves us with a really profound question. Amidst all of this sudden crisis and constant movement, how do we continually carve out the vital space needed for shared human remembrance and peace? It's definitely something to reflect on as you go about your day. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this has helped bring some clarity to our incredibly complex world. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.